Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Chantelle Meyburgh here for Gnostic TV. And as you'll probably, hopefully know by now, one of the great loves in my life, or passions in my life rather, is to speak to incredible survivors of the occult, of SRA, satanic ritual abuse, and these incredible people speaking up and speaking forth and sharing their stories. On the Gnostic conference recently, you would have met Rachel Vaughan, for those of you who haven't met her yet, one of the incredibly brave survivors from Australia, who's doing amazing things in Australia in the survivor community there. So Rachel, welcome back. How are you doing? It's so good to see you again.
See you too, Dylan. Yeah, I'm doing well. Doing well in a sea of craziness.
Isn't it just right? How are things in Australia? I mean, I know at the moment there are so many hurricanes and things in America. It's very scary. I actually watched a podcast the other day with someone saying that these hurricanes and things are actually designed to really affect the homeless and people living in trailer parks, actually. Getting rid of the non-essentials, as they put it. What is your take on that?
Well, it would make sense if that's what they're trying to do. It would certainly make sense because it's all about, getting rid of what they consider to be, like you said, non-essentials. They use far worse descriptives for it. It's pretty intense what's going on. I know I was very conscious on the 27th of September of a big shift. So a big energetic shift happened. For me, it was the veil lifting completely. I was expecting that to happen in December. It's already happened. So that was around the date that the hurricane occurred. So obviously in Australia, it's a different date. To America, there's a day apart. But I definitely think there would have been something natural would have happened as a shift on that day. And I think it's been harnessed and utilised because clearly there shouldn't be a hurricane in that area. North Carolina wouldn't normally have that sort of weather.
But isn't it interesting, because recently as well, I mean, it's 21st of September actually, we had snow here, snow up to the knees, on one of the mountain passes, as well as in some of the Free State towns in the colder areas. Snow, I mean, we get snow on the mountains. South Africa, you don't get snow in, I mean, I must say in recent years, it has becoming more and more, but not like this in the way that it was. And that was on the 21st of September. Very, very interesting. And you mentioned the 27th of September, and I agree with you. I was just saying to you as well, literally from the 1st till the 30th of September, I went through probably the biggest transformation that I've ever been through. It was like do or die, it was like you have to do or die. And literally on the 30th, I woke up on the morning of the 30th and I said, right, today it's done. And it's so weird because that day it was done. And I've made, and I think Rachel, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with me, these situations that are sent to us right now, whether it's done by the nefarious ones or whether it's done through natural causes, as they call it, acts of God. It is always still an act of God, because even if you look at the Christian religion, every day they say that Lucifer goes to the throne room to God and asks permission to do whatever Lucy has in store for today, and God gives permission, right? That's what the Christians believe. Now, I believe the same thing, just in a different way. I believe that as long as we have challenges to face. For me, it's like we're moving to 4D positive or negative now, right? It's almost like a bottleneck of energy we have to shift through. And we can't, the only way to do that is through frequency. Your frequency is the key. A heavy frequency is not going to get you through that. It literally is elevating yourself out of the matrix. That's my opinion. And the reason why we're having so much stuff as we're finding our way back out of this fallen state that we've been living in, because if we've been, think about any soccer game or any sports game, right? You're going to practice your whole life to play for the big leagues. You can't be playing for the big leagues when you're in kindergarten, right? So you have to get training. So when you're in grade 3 and you're saying to God, okay, well, I don't think I need practice anymore. I've got it all. God says, well, I don't think so. You still need more training. And there's no better trainer for you than Lucy himself. and his command of dark lords. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like when we can transcend and overcome these negative issues in our life, and we can do it and with forgiveness and grace and complete understanding and alignment with God, we then move through the proverbial bottleneck of which I speak. Do you know what I'm saying? Then your frequency is of the right frequency or vibration that naturally elevates you out of there. No one can do it for you. It's you. And through trauma, I know I started my path, although I was born with a gift, my path I started when my fiance was killed in a hijacking. That was when my healing hat was put on and I activated every healing cell in my body. That was what that did for me.
Yeah.
So I think every situation has the opportunity of being something positive for someone. And I know that it probably sounds callous, especially at times like this. And I want you please to know I have no intention of being callous at all. I'm just saying God gives us opportunities. We're either going to use them for our benefit or we're going to see it as the devil trying to do something to us. And that might well be true, but it's still our responsibility to ourselves to not get caught up in negative entanglements and stuff like that. I don't know, Rachel, what's your take on that?
Well, I have to say I totally agree. And this is the interesting thing. So you described the bottleneck, and I've been seeing that for people on a soul level. You know, the clients that I read for, the friends that I have, are going up levels in such a short period of time. I've never seen anything like it before, and I've spoken about it multiple times in interviews because it's just blown me away. Because I've been reading auras for a very long time. That shift, that incredible shift, is exactly what you've described. It's like we have to get to these much higher frequencies in order to get through that bottleneck. And I guess it's like forging a diamond. And there is an auric frequency which you could describe as diamond-like. There is a sheen to it that is particularly spectacular, and that, as far as I know, is top level. There are some souls that will achieve that very soon, and that'll be a large group on Earth at the same time, just as in recent time, roughly about a year ago, a whole heap of human beings all reached a gold soul frequency all at the same time, which is that Christ consciousness level. So we are definitely, we are on, we're doing our exams. We really seriously are on soul level doing something really intense.
I think that's exactly, what it is. It's like writing exams now. So we're not going to pass the exams until we've obviously studied enough or, had enough, done the shadow work. That's really what it is. And, I want to say that because it sounds quite callous to say it at a time like this, pretty much saying that, well, the people then that were caught up in disasters didn't do the soul work. I'm not saying that, please. I am saying that I believe each and every soul is on its path. Each and every soul has a contract with their creator. And if that's their soul path right now, I respect that and I thank them for showing us what we need to see. Each person is going to get out of a trauma and a tragedy what they need to get. I don't choose to go into drama around these things because I'm a believer in energy. I believe that the more drama the rest of us now, the pain, the loosh, you see, this is what you're saying. It's like they're harvesting emotion. Straight after the veil lifted, there was a cataclysmic situation. the floods and the storms and the weather conditions. What did that do? Create so much trauma and so much pain and suffering in humans. That's, in my opinion, what they were probably harvesting.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know, so in my opinion, we that are not there, we can learn from these situations as well. We can learn that the calmer we are in times of chaos and drama, the less loosh they have to feed off. And the more, from out of the chaos, peace is born. When we look at the symbol of the Buddha, it is said that the Buddha was born out of chaos, and out of this chaos, this amazing, highly evolved, enlightened being, because the Buddha means the enlightened one. So the enlightened one was born. So let that be a lesson for us, Let the enlightenment within us be born during these times. Let us see how we can be of service to each other and humanity, rather than go into chaos and division, because I think that is what they seek for us to be.
And look, those people that are going through that experience, like you said, I take my hat off to them, because in those situations, and it is perfectly normal to grieve in those situations. If you lose people, you lose animals, you lose property, it's perfectly normal to grieve. But what we also are seeing is just human beings are amazing. So despite the horrors, there are people going out to those places to try and help. But despite, obviously, authority doesn't want anybody to be helped. People are still going out there. They're going out in helicopters. They're going out on mules. They're doing, humanity has this desire to look after each other. And that is what that altruistic aspect of humans is all about. And it's the altruistic souls that are going to get through this matrix. It's those dark ones aren't going to get there. They're not going to be able to move into this new frequency. So I take my hat off to all of those people, because, as you said, there's a massive lesson for all of us watching that experience. It's just like everybody's had the thing in the arm. I guess I can say it on this channel, can't I? So who've been jabbed with the COVID weapon. They took a bullet for us so that we would understand what it does, what it means. And thankfully, we've got to a point now where we realise wasn't a death, an absolute death sentence within 2 years, as was expected. It wasn't the prion, zombie disaster that I was expecting, because that was what I was told as a child would happen in this time. Human beings have an ability to heal. We are so hard to kill off. So, we're seeing the absolute capabilities of humanity at the moment. And as we're all going through this bottleneck too, the gifts are improving and getting to a higher level. When I said before, I feel the veil is lifted. What was hidden is now exposed. And it's not just the corruption. It's not just that those who have attachments that are operating as a puppet. It's the otherworldly entities that we experience the world with, that all of us psychics can see, but many others cannot. It's the fact that we've been filled with fluoride and neurotoxin so that we wouldn't be able to see that. But even that's not going to make any difference now. And people are cleansing and clearing and doing everything they can to heal those sort of aspects that have been poisoned for so long. We all understand now that the Rockefellers, or I think it was the Rockefellers, were talking about how we'll feed them poisons and we'll make them like their poison. Well, we all know what the poisons are now. We know what sugar is. We know we're not supposed to have a full carb diet. We know that fats are really good for us and really, really healthy. We know that, doing good for people at our own expense, or not because it does anything for us, but because it's just good to do, lifts the spirit and makes us better people, better souls. We get to higher levels. All of these things are things that, that there are certain, ways of living where people are supposed to sort of aspire to have money and power, and everybody realizes now, well, most people realize that that's absolutely the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. It's the other way around. And it's an incredible time to be alive. Even though there's destruction and a lot of distress going on at the moment, I'm still glad to be here at this time, because I can see what's going to unfold. And we'll get to a point where eventually HARP, there's different areas of HARP in the world, and one of those will get used to take out the others, and then the first one will be dismantled. That will happen, and it will happen in our lifetime. They won't be able to do this anymore.
I so agree with you, Rachel, because I think, It's so true what you said earlier on about human beings. You know, we have this uncanny ability to want to be there for each other in times of crises. You know, I see people all the time at times like this, just giving up everything that they have and just really going out, great guns, everything they have to help someone else. I really think this is a testament to the human character. And as you say, I am so grateful for those who literally took a bullet at
Yeah.
these times for us, that we can wake up more to see what's going on. And yes, the Lucy's are on their way out. And it's a rebirthing. It's a
Mm.
it's a it's a beginning of a new era. Any birthing is a painful, messy process. We all know that. So, you know, we're going to experience that. We've always been told there are going to be a lot of casualties amongst, you know, the human beings. Unfortunately, we're seeing that happening. And all we can do is just pray for them, pray for their families, um, and just thank them for the transition that they've been through on this earth. And let's never forget, the soul is eternal. They'll be back. They'll be back.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
they'll be back.
Exactly.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. So
And while
anyway,
we're on the subject of souls ascending and getting to higher levels, I recently made the decision to put out publicly my belief on the Catholic confession, because I have a real bugbear about that. So as a psychic, I know that those souls who do not do the work that they need to do in this lifetime and don't seek to amend the terrible things they've done to others, for instance, like my father, those that don't do that end up in a very dark place when they pass over. They can get stuck there. So I know I have a different belief system to some other psychics. Some say, because I always felt, it's interesting, suicides, I don't pick up that they're stuck in the fourth dimension anymore. Up until about a year ago, that was what I was picking up on, probably a bit less. It's no longer the case. So again, we're going through this incredible shift where even they can get out of that situation. But those that think that they can do terrible things, and I'm talking to the Lucys here, and I'm talking to those that will go off to have a confession at the end of their life because they think that they can get away with all the terrible things that they've done and they can get redemption. That is just a ridiculous notion, that you can just give a private confession to one individual, a person in the Catholic Church, and everything, or every transgression has disappeared. It's absolutely not the case. And it's a trap for those souls.
it's such a trap because, again, think about it. Here's a man who is a man like us. I mean, a human being like us, not like a man like us. Gosh, I've been accused of that too many times. Sorry. He's a human being like us, uh, given authority by another human to decide whether you are worthy, your soul is worthy of being forgiven or not. I mean, think about that. Think
Ridiculous.
about that. It's
Yeah.
never ever made sense to me. I mean, these guys are not holy themselves. They should be in those confession boxes most of the time themselves anyway, right? But it's so true what you say, to give your authority over to one man. And now, especially when we're looking at the decoding, we're looking at Jesse decoding the churches, the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, we're looking at the symbolism, all of that stuff. We're learning to speak their language. We really do see who these guys have been serving all along. There's nothing maybe about that anymore. That's a given, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the whole idea of confession, I believe, is because the Catholic Church was one of the forerunners of all these blackmail operations in the world. So you've got these people who are priests who are pedophiles. I know not every priest is a pedophile, but a very disturbing number are. And they get confessions from people. They get to find out who the other pedophiles are, which children are being abused. Those children then can be used in covert operations. So you've got the Catholic Church, no doubt, was probably the very start of those covert blackmail operations that we now see in all of these cases: Epstein, P. Diddy, Ghislaine Maxwell, all of these cases, and my father as well, he was Australia's Epstein. All of these cases where these children are earmarked for abuse because they've already been traumatized. So, you know, a person going off, a pedophile going off and confessing to another pedophile about the children in their family or in their neighborhood or whoever, those children then get used. Now, when people stop confessing so much, they would have to do it in different ways. But that is, and quite frankly, it's a breeding ground for pedophiles, the Catholic Church, because when children get abused, and if they're certain number of them, it's a very small percentage, will end up being abusers, they'll go into the church as well. And you've got this constant cycle of pedophiles getting confessions. It's just
There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, it's so interesting what you've said there, which I've not thought about before, actually, when you were saying about the them going into confessions, you know, being a pedo, one pedo to another, giving off their lovely pedo vibes to each other. And as you say, that just, it's like that whole little snake. I mean, we know the Catholic Church is, I mean, all you got to do is look at the audition room, right? There's the head of the serpent right there, plain for everyone to see. There's no doubt in my mind that the Catholic Church is the beginning. We all belong to the Vatican. When you've put that soul print, you know, on your birth certificate or whatever, you belong to the Vatican. In fact, we did a show with Jesse yesterday, which was super, not yesterday. One of the shows I did, sorry, with I can't remember which one. We speak about that a lot, the handprints and the soul prints, and how much we as humans are worth, our soul currency, how much each human being is worth in dollars. I mean, Caleb mentioned it's a few $1 billion that so they immediately start trading off our resources, our spiritual value, our consciousness. And we are owned by the Vatican. So there you go.
And with these cults, with these things like these weather events, these cults, I feel like they think that they're reaping, that they're just, it's time to pull the carrots out of the ground. That's what they're doing. They're reaping. What happens to all of those bodies? You know, I know many will, obviously, because they've been lost, you know, they'll be lost, but many won't be. And what a wonderful way to harvest a bunch of people that are presumably missing. When you have a weather event where there's a lot of water and a lot of mud, people, unfortunately, it's just very graphic, but they get ground up in the mud. You know, if that person disappears completely or the bones disappear, what a great way to make a whole bunch of people disappear. And I know that's going to be very disheartening for those people looking for the missing. But we have to take reality into you know, effect. And some of those people will be taken off. And who knows what's going to happen to them. So that's it's a harvest as well, not just of loose energy, it's of people. And I know that's horrible.
I think you've used the word, the perfect word, it's a harvest. That's what this is. That's why they create these events. That's exactly what they do. Anyone watching this channel or the show and has been watching me and you, no doubt, for a while, will know that the weather witches are out in full force. They create these HARP and DARPA, are the organizations, if you want to call them that, that create the weather conditions and that create these storms most of the time for these purposes. And not only weather conditions, the fires, I mean, all of that stuff, they are also responsible for. And as you say, it's the harvesting of souls, it's the harvesting of loosh. And not just that, yes, there's obviously the body parts and the taking underground to the tunnels and trafficking and moving and. I mean, these guys have got so many resources out there. And we have to be aware that this is what they're doing. Is it a nice topic to talk about? No, I wish it didn't happen. But we have to be aware that it is happening. And this is unfortunately what a lot of the reasons why we're having these crazy weather conditions.
It also creates a lot of orphans, a lot of opportunities for fostering, a lot of opportunities for children to be trafficked in that way. And this takes me back to, you know, other events like wars. Obviously, between the First and Second World War, there was a lot of children that were sent out from the UK who were supposedly orphaned. Now, there was apparently about 150,000 of them that were sent to South Africa, they were sent to Australia, they were sent to the not to the UK, to America. So many Western countries. 4,000 were sent to Australia. 2,000 went missing from Australia. I mean, nobody knows where they are. Most of those children did have parents, but the parents couldn't feed them. We're talking desperate times where there's not enough food. And so there was a campaign, you know, send your children off for oranges and sunshine in Australia. And the parents, you know, many of them didn't know that their children were being sent off, but some did know. And they never heard from their children again. They thought they were going on to you know, warmer climes, a nicer place. They had food. Well, they didn't. They came here and they were used in blackmail operations like I was as a child, and they were used as fodder, and they were used for experiments. And you know, half of them are missing in my country. I think many of them, my father, you know, made trophies of, unfortunately. And I go, it's all very graphic, and I don't mean to be, but I've done so many interviews and not been able to speak openly about these things. So now that we're on a platform like this, I feel like I can speak about it.
Please do. I know it's
It
not
happens
easy.
over and over and over again, Shanti. And it's just, and I know you know it, but people need to be aware of these things, and this has to stop.
Absolutely. It's so true, and it so has to stop. I find it interesting, you know, you were speaking about the sunshine and oranges tours that they would take the kids, or trips or places that they would. And as you say, you know, it makes a lot of sense as well as to where these expendable kids come from, because we often hear the hierarchy kids are obviously the ones that are groomed, and it doesn't mean that they are getting it off easy. I mean, you guys had as much torture. The only thing is they weren't allowed to kill you, which I sometimes wonder what was better or worse. You know, sure, to be living in those conditions. But you said that quite a few came to South Africa as well, and I know South Africa is definitely a great hub for child trafficking as well. South Africans are very shy to speak. I've tried to reach out to many of them, and they won't speak publicly yet. But in time, hopefully, you know, we will be seeing more and more of these people. But wow, Rachel, I mean, I'm trying to understand, maybe from your point of view, how did you as a child feel? And I know we're kind of going deep a little bit here. How did you as a child feel when you saw what was going on, when you saw your dad bringing in these kids, doing what they do or did? I would imagine, because that must have shut down, because the reasons why they do that is to shut down the empathetic pathways in the brain as well.
Well, unfortunately, that never got shut down for me. So I have this thing where if somebody hurts themselves, like, and there's blood and it's like an injury, I'm a mess. I don't freak out if it's me. I can handle that. I can handle my own blood. But if I see somebody else's, and it's like I can feel it, I can't watch splatter movies or anything like that, because I can feel in my body, I can feel what's being done on film. And perhaps that's part of what the torture was about, so that I would I remember saying after I watched my sister give birth a couple of times, and I would rather give birth myself than watch somebody else do it, because it's just as painful to watch. So it, you know, it's not pleasant. So I couldn't shut it down, and what I had was this constant ball of anxiety, like a lead weight in my stomach. I had so many problems as a child with pain in my stomach, and I was taken to many doctors. And one time I was taken to a doctor, a pediatrician, was with my mother and my father. I was about 2.5. And the pediatrician looked at my father and virtually accused him of sexually abusing me. He said, has anybody touched her inappropriately? Something along those lines. I was 2.5. I just remember being absolutely terrified. father on one side, mother on the other. And I thought, oh, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about this, because I knew he threatened to kill me. And my father was shifting around and he was furious. And I really hope he didn't hurt that doctor, because the doctor figured it out. He'd already examined me. He'd figured it out. I didn't have a hymen. So
He would have known, yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
So so I was taken, because my mother was somewhat oblivious. I was taken off to doctor after doctor after doctor because of this gnawing pain in my stomach that never went away. I don't have it now, because I've remembered that stuff. I've allowed it to come back into my consciousness. I've dealt with it. I've healed from it. But, you know, it was just a constant pain. And that was on top of, you know, the constant pain that I had in other parts of my body, obviously, because I was constantly being abused. But yeah, I couldn't shut it down. It was never shut down for me. The empathy was always there. I think it was just heightened. It was made more intense.
Were you able to numb yourself off to what was going on? Because I would imagine that would have been something that you saw quite a few times, right? Were you
Yeah.
able to numb yourself down? Because it seems to me like you're an empath. As you say, you feel it happening in your own body. So were you able to at any point shut that down and just not feel?
Don't think I ever was. And there were periods of time where I couldn't even dissociate from it after it had happened. So there was a period in my teens where I couldn't dissociate, and I couldn't even pretend to be normal around my friends. So I didn't even have that connection for about 6 months. I would just go off and sit by myself for lunch, or sit with another girl that was also ostracized in a weird way, because I think similar things were happening to her. And my friends just didn't understand why. They didn't know why I didn't want to hang around with them. I think I was also possibly pregnant at the time too. So that was another reason. And there were other times, like when my father had children under the house in the cellar. I couldn't dissociate from it because I could hear them crying at night. I don't know why my mother couldn't hear it. Don't know. I just don't know. Maybe she was self-medicating at the time to shut it out, because it was mostly at night time and the house was quiet, then I could hear them. And I remember one night, it was during the day actually, it was one daytime, there was a split in the vinyl. We had floorboards, but there was vinyl on top, and there was the vinyl didn't fit the room properly. My father was always cutting corners. He had other families elsewhere, we found out, at least one. So the vinyl didn't meet in the middle. Right, there was a missing sort of about 1 centimetre. And I remember at one point my sister and I noticed that there was light coming from down below the bedroom, and that's where the lined room was. That was pretty much identical to the bedroom that we were in. And we're both looking at it. What on earth is that? And I remember our father coming to the door of the bedroom and saying, "What are you looking at?" And there's a light, and he stormed off. Don't remember what happened after that, but he must have gone to turn the light off, because there was a light down there. So, you know, there were things that leaked through that we just couldn't cover up, and that's a memory that's always stayed. I guess he couldn't erase that one. He had techniques where he would try and erase memories that came up. He didn't manage to erase that one, so that one's always been in my mind. And what was that? And you know, obviously I've remembered now.
Wow. I mean, that is, how do you deal with the memories now? I mean, it's obviously difficult for you to go back then talk about it, but how have you found the healing? How have you found healing?
It's much like what you were saying before. I've got a different perspective. So instead of being stuck in that child part that went through it, I look at it from the perspective of, I went through that. Those children went through that for some reason. So again, yes, obviously there is a lot of dark in this world that we live in. But I see what I went through, and perhaps what those children went through as well, as a bit like what these people with this hurricane situation are going through as well. It's a lesson for others. And I am not advocating for it. And I am doing my very best to make sure that I'm creating a world, manifesting a world where this doesn't happen anymore, because I just will not shut up about it. And there are so many people doing the same thing. Whatever corruption they're experienced, they're stepping up and saying, this can't go on anymore. This is not going to continue. And the more of us that do us, there'll be some of us that survive, that don't get taken out, that can keep doing that, and it will wake people up until we get to a point where we have a better world. And I'm totally convinced that is going to happen. Nothing's ever convinced me that it wouldn't. And I was shown things as a child that it would happen. So I'm very confident that's the purpose. There was a purpose to it. It wasn't just a nightmare. There was a reason why it happened.
I have no doubt about that. You know, when I look at survivors like yourself, I look at Jesse, I look at Caleb, I look at Joanne Breeze, I look at Adrian, so many people. And I look how you guys are using your voices at this point. And it's exactly that. It's almost like you've used your experience to make the world a better place. You haven't used your wounds or your pain as a weapon.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to judge when people do that, but it's as easy to understand that healing is such a, it's a step-by-step process, right? One takes one step at a time, and then you'll find the next level and the higher level, and eventually it's not so bad anymore. You know, it becomes bearable, breathable. But again, I've said this to you so often, Rachel, I think that, you know, to see someone like yourself, who truly is, in my opinion, a true healer of the world, having gone through that and coming out on the other side and having a heart full of love, you know, is a real blessing for everyone. So thank you for what you do. It's really amazing. You're doing incredible stuff.
Thank you for giving us a voice too, darling. I know we've spoken about this before, but I know that you also get slings and arrows, many of them. So yeah, we're all working together. I think we're making.
I think I always say, you know, we are on the same team, but we're playing different positions.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's wonderful to be doing this together and making it work together and moving forward together. And as you say, so many people are actually coming out now. I mean, Rachel, remember 4 years ago when we began, right? When I began my channel anyway, that's kind of when I got to meet you guys. It's like so few people were talking about this. Now there are so many channels on YouTube that have got really big names talking. You were looking at the whole music industry right now, right? And seeing what's happening there. I mean, I believe, what's your take on that as a matter of fact? Do you think that this is the real fall, or do you think it's still part of the psyop type scenario?
I think people are finally, like the majority of people are finally awake enough. They've had little bits of, they've had the Epstein case, they've had Nixium, they've had all these bits and pieces come in over the last few years, and they finally realized, right, this is a real thing. So they can't just, you know, you can't just talk about it being conspiracy theory anymore. And it's so bloody obvious. I mean, all of these Hollywood deletes that we're supposed to be revering, who are literally sex slaves. I mean, we've had Katy Perry here in Australia, and she literally did this big to-do about opening a portal at the MCG Arena, which looks like a massive eye, which is the Melbourne Cricket Ground in Victoria. Now, just prior to that, same year, we had Taylor Swift here with a massive ley line and a mark tree on stage with her, you know, so that she was there marking out the ley line and the portal, and Katy Perry's there opening it up a few months later. And the poor woman, I mean, I know she's probably done some terrible things, but I just keep seeing all these dates, and I just look at her in these pictures, and she's being advertised, because I guarantee you she would have taken a lot of work during that time. She's not just running around having a wonderful life dressing up. She's being used like
Oh,
a
yeah.
toilet. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Oh, no.
horrifying.
I agree with that. Jessie said something interesting, which I thought about that. It's like she said, okay, well, the thing we need to look at now is who's being protected, and are they talking about SRA? Are they just talking about pedophilia, right? And witchcraft and stuff like that? But are we really having these celebrities that are going down? Are they talking about the rituals, the sacrifices, the SRA that goes on along with that? Or is that still being protected? Because you see, like what I'm seeing as well is that Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're very high up in there, for example. They're being protected. So
Mm.
I'm not sure that we'll see them fall. It's very interesting, but it's good to see that people are going down, and it's good to see that people are starting to talk about this. That's the most important thing for me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think you will see over the next year or two, we're going to see pretty much, I mean, it's going to collapse. So that whole industry will collapse, and we'll see individual after individual after individual coming out and saying, this is what's been happening to me, I'm a slave. I have no doubt. It's happening already, but it's going to happen in droves. And they'll be desperate to do that because that's the only way they're going to be able to get any kind of compassion from anybody else because of the things they've been forced to do. And, we've got to take into consideration a lot of these people were mind controlled from a very early age, bred for purpose. There has to be some compassion. It doesn't mean it's okay for what they've done, but there has to be some compassion because they're
I
shells.
agree. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree. And the more that we are, and what I love is just, the whistleblowers coming forward, speaking their truth, speaking about what's been going on, right, in their lives, sharing, letting people know, there's a lot of that going on right now. It's like a
Yeah,
plug is being taken off, and just candles are being lit all over. And we're just starting to get some light in these very, very, very dark times. Um, but it's darkest before the dawn, right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So we're seeing the darkness, intensely at the moment. And it was always going to be really chaotic up until, again, I feel that there's another huge shift happening in December with the permanent harmonisation of the ley lines. That is the bottleneck that we've come to. That's the stoppers off, and we're coming to this big transformation. I don't see cataclysms. Obviously, what's happening with this hurricane and possibly this one with Florida, we're obviously we're interviewing just prior to when that's possibly going to hit. I keep hoping and praying that it's going to be transmuted, or transformed. Transformed is a much better word.
Yeah,
And I hope and pray that it will. But I think that with human consciousness, if there's enough people all hoping and praying that this doesn't happen, or just basically manifesting that it won't happen,
yeah,
something will
exactly.
shift. But
Exactly.
I think those that are manipulating and actually, carrying out the orders and sending the orders, those that carry them out and send them in those scenarios, they really better watch their backs, because energetically it will come back and it will take them out. And that's not a threat. That's just how universal law works.
I so agree. Wow, Rachel, and it's so true, karma, it really is, karma, all karma is cause and effect. At some point, we all know that we have to be accountable for our actions. We can only hide from our own actions for so long. And the soul knows it has to right its wrongs. So I'm just glad that it is not me who is getting up to those shenanigans now, because man, oh man, I don't want that for myself or anyone that I love, that's for sure. Anyway, Rachel, it has been amazing chatting with you again, and I so look forward to doing it again in the future. Is there anything you want to say, maybe just in closing, before we bid each other farewell for a short while?
Well, for those who are finding this time difficult, spend as much time as you can in nature, bare feet in the grass, be around large bodies of water, think about positive outcomes. don't get caught up in it. Don't be part of the loosh machine. Don't get caught up in the misery, and try not to get caught up in the fear porn as well. And just try to imagine an outcome, a beautiful world that we can all live in. If everybody on the earth did that at the same time, we wouldn't be in this mess.
I fully agree. I always say if people can just put down their weapons for 10 minutes, every single person on this planet at the same time for 10 minutes, and just say hello to the person next door to you, I think we would have a very different experience here. Anyway, we will work towards that, and we are working towards that. And Rachel, thank you so, so much for joining me. And thank you to all our amazing viewers who watch these shows and who support and who share this information and the knowledge, because this is the stuff we need to be dealing with. You know, we see one psyop after the other occurring, and we wonder what they're trying to hide all the time. Really, it's our stories, it's our information. That's actually what they're trying to hide, because people like us know the truth. And truth is damning for them, but it sets us free in so many ways. Thank you, Rachel. God bless you and everybody, and take beautiful care. Bye, everyone.